Hi there, my name is Marie Fétiveau. Thanks for inviting me on your screens. I've been attending Women Techmaker Montreal since 2018, and I always felt inspired and motivated by this event, so I'm definitely honored to be part of it this year. Today I'm going to share about how being a parent made me a better professional and more exactly how it helped sharpen a set of skills that are essential to my work. But first, a little bit about me. I'm a lead developer for the media and entertainment vertical at Unity Technologies. And Unity Technology is a company that is developing a platform for creating and operating interactive real-time 3D content. Our main product is Unity. It's a game engine that can be used to create video games and other applications. And my team and I are focusing on building and supporting features to create linear content for the animation industry. Before joining Unity 2 years ago, I worked for 12 years in the VFX industry, first as a developer specialized in colors and image processing, and then as a lead developer. I'm also a mother of 2 kids. One is now 4 years old, and the other is 1 year old. I identify as a woman, and my pronouns are she and her. Before I start, I want to clarify something. There are millions of ways to improve some skills, including some where you get to sleep. So this talk is not about saying that everyone need or should be a parent. That's a really personal choice and a really personal experience I'm going to share with you today. I honestly feel lucky and grateful that my experience toward giving birth and being a parent allowed me to grow. But I was able to do it because I have support from my family, my friends, and my work. I'm privileged, and this is why I'm more likely to have a positive experience. And that's important to mention. Now, why this subject? The main reason is I wish someone told me about this when I was a young professional. The parent representation in movie, books, or around me, and the way some of my colleagues would talk about parents, and especially mothers, gave me the impression that a choice will have to be made between a career and a family. And that once you are a parent, you are less of a professional because your priority is elsewhere. So here's some example of things I heard or read at that time. Someone telling me that a colleague was not reliable because she had to leave at 6 p.m. to fetch her kids, and not mentioning she started at 7 that day. Another telling me that a mother waited to be hired by my company so she can make babies and get some free holidays. Reading on a forum thread that conferences should not accommodate parents with childcare or kid-specific services because if you can't be apart from your kid, you shouldn't go to a conference, and a parent should not expect the entire world to conform to your choice of having kids. I especially relate to this last one because I love conferences, and since I'm a parent, it's a struggle for me to be separated from my kids. And for sure, in my case, it's a choice to have children, and I assume the responsibilities of it. But being a parent does not make it less relevant for my employer to send me to a conference or for a conference to welcome me as a speaker or not as a speaker. I'm the same person with the same technical expertise. So if it was worth having me before, it is still worth it today. So if there's simple action to accommodate parents, why should a conference or an employer don't act on them? After all, parenthood is a natural part of life, and a lot of those attendees are parents. And to share a positive experience about being a parent and attending conferences. The first time I actually got separated from my oldest, while pregnant with my second, was actually for the 2019 Unity Hack Week. A little bit of context about that. The Unity Hack Week is a yearly event where Unity's developers from all around the world gather from 1 week to work on innovative and challenging projects. And with this event, Unity does a good job at understanding the parenting dilemma. On one side, the organization proposes, for those who can't do otherwise, a childcare, and on the other side, it set a working environment where you can actually forget about your daily life in order to let your creativity thrive for 1 week. And for me, once the separation moment was past, it became a great and successful experience, and I feel grateful to work for such a company that has a good understanding of what it is to be a parent and a developer, actually. So coming back to the why, as I became a parent, I didn't identify in those stereotypes. I didn't feel less professional. I was still caring a lot about my work, my colleagues, my career, and I didn't feel that I had to choose because I couldn't be good at both. It for sure required a lot of adaptation to conciliate both, but at the end, I even realized that it improved some skills that are essential for my work, and this is what I'm going to talk about. The bias toward parents is a real thing and can be called the parenting wall. And it can affect everyone, parents and non-parents too. So here's some illustration of this bias. So the first sentence is, he has a family to support. Well, fathers face the expectation that they will not or should not take some time off for caregiving. They may be seen as deserving more pay or promotion because of their presumed family role. The second one, our priorities lie elsewhere. Mothers are stereotyped as less competent and committed and are held to higher performance and punctuality standards and are likely to be promoted as identical candidates without children. The third one, I'm worried about our children. Mothers who work long hours tend to be disliked and held to higher performance standards. The fourth one, it's not a good time for her. Opportunities and promotions may be withheld on the assumption that mother will not or should not want them. And the final one, no life. Employees without children may face the assumption that they can always pick up the slack because they have no life. So bias is a prejudice, and the best way to get rid of those prejudices is to talk about them and unknit them one by one. The example I just mentioned come from the document I linked on this slide. That is a very good resource about bias in general. Before I talk about the set of skills I improved, let's talk about my job so it can be clearer why those skills are important to me. So as I said, I'm currently a lead developer. My job consists in being the steward of my development team. It means that my role is to do whatever it takes to make sure we deliver the feature on time while encouraging my teammates to grow. It requires a lot of organization and adaptation skills, and my activity can be as varied as filling in for a developer that is away, coding a feature, contributing my domain and technical expertise, handling angry feedback, making sure we are aligned on the same understanding, leading complex discussions with multiple teams, organizing and framing meetings, setting up Jira workflows, giving good and bad feedback, working on growth map. In a sense, I juggle with technical aspects as much as with unknowns and emotions. So now, let's get to the chase, and let me share how being a parent made me a better professional. And more exactly, how it helped sharpen a set of skills that are my confidence, my organization, and my lucidity in front of adversity. First, confidence. Being a parent, and more especially becoming a parent, increased my confidence. So basically, twice, I grew a human being from scratch in my body. Even though billions of people did this before me, it was still something as exhilarating and terrifying. I learned that when it comes to birth, a human being is an animal like any others. So the best you can do is to shut down that neocortex of yours and let your primal instinct and hormonal system take over. As cheesy as it sounds, this communion with my body is the most amazing experience I ever had. It was humbling, it was powerful, it made me stronger and more confident. Being more confident is definitely something that helped me improve as a lead. It indeed requires a lot of confidence to allow yourself to be vulnerable, to allow yourself to say, I don't know, but I will do my possible so we together find the answer to your question. And accepting and wearing proudly your vulnerability is essential in order to build a relationship of trust in your team that will unlock courageous and hard discussion. And here's the perfect occasion to quote Dr. Brené Brown. A brave leader is someone who says, I see you, I hear you, I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to keep listening and asking questions. So now, second skill is organization. Before having kids, I looked at people with one kid and I would think, how are they doing it? I don't have kids and I'm already swamped. Then I had a kid and I did it. But when I looked at people with two kids, I would think like, how are they doing it? I only have one kid and I'm already swamped. Then I had my second kid and I'm doing it. The secret, even more organization. Every minute must count. So, an example. Before having kids, what should happen is that at some point, late in the evening, one of us would say, so, what do we eat tonight? But when you have kids, that does not work. Your kid comes back from childcare or school, and soon they're hungry. So around 6, the dinner needs to be ready, even if you stopped working just a few minutes ago. So here's what we came up with. Every week, we do a menu for the whole week. We write the grocery list accordingly, and then the menu is displayed in evidence in the living room so that the first person available can start cooking. Simple, but efficient. And I didn't invent it. It was what my mom used to do, and I wish I had realized this humongous work she was doing earlier, so I could have expressed the big amount of gratitude I have for her. And that's a life lesson. It is never too early to show gratitude to your caregivers, but it can be too late. Anyways, the point is, when you don't have time, there is always ways to find something to optimize in your agenda. It requires to invest some time in organizing and preparing, but at the end, you save some precious time. And that's definitely something I was able to apply in my work and is even more pertinent during this pandemic time. Indeed, a lot of our casual encounters have been replaced by meetings. For example, and I do all my one-on-ones every week, and I have way more team things. So I already had a lot of meetings before the COVID-19, and I ended up into meeting tunnels where sometimes I didn't even have a break to eat. Fortunately, with the help of my manager, peers, teammates, I was able to do little action to improve the situation. Use third-party tools to optimize the agenda, reduce the default meeting time to 25 minutes, preparing the meeting to make them as efficient as possible. And about this last one, just making sure the context, the goal, the expected outcome and participation is in the event description is already a simple and very efficient way to make sure everyone is engaged in the discussion at the very first minute the meeting starts. So now the last skill that is called lucidity in front of adversity and is dividing in two parts. First part, lucidity facing stressing moments. So having a kid also helped me put things in perspective. Now I have this huge responsibility on two kids, and it's about life, it's about death. This COVID-19 situation is making this even more true. And back in March, during the lockdown, my oldest kid did a huge fever and started convulsing. A convulsion? It's pretty benign at this age, but you don't necessarily know that at first, and it's really impressive and pretty upsetting to see your kid like that. But I couldn't fall apart because I had my kid's life in my hand, like every day actually. So I just had to keep my mind as clear as possible and move forward. The experience of confronting adversity is something that made me grow and better prepare myself to handle those kind of situation, stressing situation. Fortunately for me, I had the chance to work for a nice industry. As my former boss in a VFX and animation studio would say to me, Marie, don't worry too much. At the end of the day, it's just one tiny green pixel in Hollywood. No one is going to die. And as a matter of fact, after having my first kid, it was way easier for me to take that one step back when a situation was going crazy and say, hold on, let's breathe and go back to the beginning. We are going to be okay. Now, what's the initial problem again? Because as crazy as work could be, it was less scary than life and death. And this coolness in front of adversity is something I use all the time at work. Now, the second part, that is lucidity facing emotions. So back in March again, when my sweet little 3-year-old was already insecure because of the birth of his sibling and the temporary unavailability of his exhausted parents, the COVID lockdown started. Suddenly, his source of social stability disappeared with the closing down of his childcare. He was scared, he didn't really understand what was going on, and he was not mature enough to actually put words on his fears. So he started to do those intense anger episodes. So really, imagine Jack in The Incredible, and you're not far from the reality. And it was really, really disconcerting at first. I didn't know what to do. And very quickly, I learned to keep my cool, because the worst thing I could do was actually contributing to his emotion. And I can tell you, angry doesn't cancel angry, it just adds up. So I can tell you, after experiencing those emotion tsunami, emotion of a mature adult brain does not seem scary at all. And I actually learned a lot about the necessity of welcoming those emotions. And that's helpful for my day-to-day job. So, I just shared with you how 3 of my skills improved as I became a parent. Confidence, organization, lucidity in front of adversity. When I proposed the idea of this talk at Unity, I got this comment from a colleague. Interesting. I'd also would like to hear how being a professional can make me a better parent. And I indeed think that for me, it was not a one-way road. Being a parent helped me become a better professional, and my professional experience also helped me become a better parent. So first, I'm a developer, and as a developer, I learn to learn. Anytime I have to face a new challenge, first thing I do is try to gain knowledge. I read books and articles, I ask questions, and then I try stuff, I make mistakes, and I learn in the process until I'm done. So when I got pregnant, I actually didn't know much about baby delivery. So I read book, I asked questions to my doula, I even wrote my delivery specification that are called a birth plan, but still. And on the D-Day, I was really prepared to whatever scenario could happen, and it really helped me to overcome the difficulties. Same for my kid angry episode. I was confronted to an unprecedented challenge. So first thing I did is read article and book again, ask questions and tried stuff. Sometimes I miserably failed, but at some point it worked and I learned in the process. So at the end, parenting is just another development project. By the way, the book that made a huge difference for me, the one that is on the slide, is very practical and helpful. You can pick up some of the ideas, and it's called How to Talk So Kid Will Listen and Listen So Kid Will Talk by Adele Faber and Hélène Maslich. Then there are skills that I developed since I'm at Unity, and they are pretty helpful to cope with the baby to young kid transition. And to explain the skill, I will share a little bit about Unity's culture. At Unity, every day we are encouraged to live by our company values. Here's the values. The user first one means we put user first and it is what holds us together, defines and aligns our work. Then there's best ideas wins. We want the best idea to win, and to do so, we need to make sure that there is a place for everyone to express themselves, whatever their role or seniority is. In it together means that we are all citizens of unity, and we all act as owner of unity. And if we have something to say, we'll use our voice directly, candidly, and with good intent. And the last one is go bold. We try to go big, and when we fail, we learn, and we get better, and we go big again. So those values guide us on a day-to-day basis and influence how we do our job, how we treat each other, while also helping us making the right decisions for our customers, partners, and collaborators. And in order to live by those values, we share some general good practices and mindset. One of them is called active listening, and it's a general listening pattern. You can actually find a lot of resources on the internet about this. What is really important about active listening is the mindset. You listen to understand, not to answer. And to do so, you have to give your full attention to be here in the moment. The goal is to get to a shared understanding. And in order to get to that shared understanding, you need to make sure everyone engages in giving their opinion, but also in truly listening to others. You also need to make sure that what is said is clear to everyone, and moreover, you need to confirm that the understanding is really shared. I don't know if you ever get out of a meeting believing everyone was aligned and realize later that no one understood the same thing. Well, that did happen to me several times before, and now it doesn't happen since I'm using the active listening and all the ecosystem around it. But on top of being a good work skill, practicing active listening made me realize a behavior I had in my personal life. When I was busy with my daily routine, I would feel that I didn't have the time to stop what I was doing and properly listen. So I would just continue doing what I was doing and give a semi-attention to the person requesting my attention, meaning my kid or my spouse. But I realized that the message I was sending to the person in question was that I didn't care enough to stop. And worst, multitasking was not even that efficient. One side was always suffering from the lack of attention, if not both sides. So what I learned to do is to make sure that I'm 100% here when I start listening, and to do so, I set some time to listen. So, for example, I'm doing whatever chore, and my kid comes to me and starts asking questions. What I say now is, look, I'm busy now, but I will be done in X minutes. So how about you go do something in the living room, and I'll join you to listen to what you have to say as soon as I'm done. And it often works. Another thing that I like to use in the active listening is the understanding confirmation. And it is an important part of the active listening. Sometimes what it takes is just showing my kid that I understood what they are going through. So for example, my kid is angry. I say you are angry, and I get it. And it's amazing to see how those simple words get his attention, and engage the process of moving on. And that works for adults too. For example, one day I was pretty upset about a situation that was happening to me, and I was talking about it with my manager. And at some point, he simply says, "Whoa, it sucks. It's normal to be upset." And those really simple words really comforted me because my feelings were suddenly acknowledged, and the whole lot of my insecurity toward those feelings disappeared. I was not even sure that I was right to be upset, So now the last element I want to mention about the active listening is the engagement part, which means you need to invite people to draw out ideas and perspective. And that works with my kid too. For example, my kid recently started to refuse to fell asleep alone, So we sat and discussed what could be the solution for him to feel asleep without us. And he actually worded that he just didn't want to be alone. And the solution he found was to put his little sister in the same room. Finally, I'm going to talk of another skill we affectionate at Unity. We called it building relationships. And the idea is that by getting to know and understand people around you, you'll be able to value, support, empower them appropriately, and this will lead to trust. Trust is important to have honest and courageous discussions. There is especially one part I find useful for parenting is to work at empowering people into finding their own solution and answers because people knows better than me how to solve their own issues. And I'm going to share an example that anyone knowing children can relate to. There is this moment in a child's development where they start to ask why to everything. Often you do not even finish to answer the first why, there's already a second why happening. And incidentally, you are stuck in a never-ending why session. So here's an advice I read in the How to Talk So Kid Will Listen and Listen So Kid Will Talk. When a kid asks why, just return the question back. It's pretty amazing to observe how most of the time they already can answer or have the reasoning that will lead to an answer. And it's a very nice way to empower them and tell them that they can find the solution. For example, back in October, a very long time ago, I was working with my kid and there was rotten Halloween pumpkin that looked like it was also eaten by a little animal. So my kid asked, why is the pumpkin like that? Good question. Why? I don't know. Well, let's try to guess. Maybe a tree fell on the pumpkin? Yes, that's possible. But where is the tree though? Maybe someone removed the tree? Interesting. And do you think a tree would leave little holes in the pumpkins? Maybe a dog ate the pumpkin. So this discussion went on a few minutes, and it was a nice exchange. And I was really thrilled to have this discussion with my kid and see how his little brain was already making all those assumptions. So to conclude, active listening, engaging, empowering, those are good practices to use at home too. And at the end, for me, it's a balance. My family is contributing to my work as my work is contributing to my family. So I'm almost done with this talk. And the last thing I need to say is that when I discussed the idea of this talk, I essentially focused on the positive aspect of it. And it actually gave the impression that there was no downside and that it was easy. And that made me realize I forgot to say something essential. It was hard. Today, I can have a look back and say it is an experience that made me grow and made me a better professional. But back then, just getting back to work after a long leave and having to handle all the unknowns about babies, I felt overwhelmed and exhausted, and I was several times close to burnout. But over time, I learned, adjusted, I was supported by my family, friends, and work. I was able to say, stop, this is not working right now. We need to change something. Being supported is very important. In August, when I came back from maternity leave for the second time, it was still hard. But I had my first experience that gave me confidence that the overwhelming and exhaustion part is temporary. A matter of weeks or months, time to adapt to this new reality on top of which COVID-19 was added. But as Glennon Doyle says often, we can do hard things. And I'm going to share the best advice that was given to me. A few weeks maybe after my first kid was born. I was exhausted, with almost no sleep, hormonal, breastfeeding that was really challenging, and a baby that was crying. We were not sure why. I was feeling extremely overwhelmed and wondering if that was going to be my new reality now, never sleeping again with a baby crying. And someone told me, nothing is never set forever with a baby. Things can change from a day to another, even from an hour to another. So just take it 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day at a time. And that's an advice that works also very well for your work. When facing a complex, overwhelming task, just find the tiniest step you can do and do it, and then find the next step, and so on, until you are at the top of your mountain and discover there's actually another mountain. But that's already another story, right? So that's it. As I said in preamble, my goal is just to share a personal and positive experience. I talked about how being a parent helped me improve my confidence, my organization skills, and my lucidity. And I also showed that it's a bilateral relationship. I'm not an expert in anything, and I'm actually at the beginning of my journey as a parent, but being aware that the parenting bias is a thing helped me to have a better return to work experience for my second child. So I hope this talk helped. Please feel free to ask me questions or give me feedback, and thanks for listening to me.